Testing 1 2 3. Testing. Testing 1 2 3. Hello. Welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Lydia, to those of you who don't know, and I am a handmade enthusiast, bringing you DIY videos, a few laughs, some style tips, and maybe a few heart-to-hearts, you know. So if you're interested in that, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell button, because that's gonna actually notify you when my videos drop. I try to post every other Tuesday. Today I'm bringing you part 2 of the jumpsuit tutorial. I'm showing you the sewing part, and that is going to be amazing. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me tell you, Tencel is the best fabric. It's super light and airy for the summer. Right here I'm showing you the selvage edge, and that's what you want your grain line parallel to. Sometimes I'll even measure it on large patterns because I don't want the pant leg to skew. Then I'm going to serge everything. If you don't have a serger, use a zigzag on your domestic machine. That will stop the fraying. So I'm going to take the front pieces, put them right sides to right sides, and sew the front center seam. And do the same for the back, leaving about 1.25 inches at the very bottom near the crotch. This is going to make it easier to sew the inseam later. Next, we're going to place the front and the back right side to right side and sew the shoulder seams at 1/2 inch and press open and flat with our iron. Then I'm going to take the head of the sleeve, so the top curve of it, and sew a large stitch around that, so a bigger stitch than usual. And with this, we're going to take the bottom thread and pull it and gather it a little bit. This is not to create a puffed sleeve look. This is just to get kind of a curve going on so that it will fit into the sleeve properly. So the front of the armhole is going to be shorter than the back, so just keep that in mind. You want to match up all the notches, so the center notch is going to be on the shoulder, and then just make sure the front of the sleeve is matching up to the front of the body and the back of the sleeve is matching up to the back of the body. So here I'm easing it all in. If the sleeve ends up being a little bit bigger than the armhole, then you just pull the thread more to gather it more. And then as you sew, you don't want any puckers. So smooth everything out and just work at it slowly so that you get a lovely sleeve that doesn't have any puckers in it. There we go. For the sleeve hem, I left it raw, so I just did a stitch there. When we do the pockets, we're going to line up the pocket notches with the notches on the pant. And then we're going to sew this at 1/4 inch to 3/8, so less than 1/2 inch. And then we're going to turn it over and sew a very close stitch. Do this on all 4 sides, front and back, because then you're going to face them together like so. And to sew this pocket in, we're going to sew from the underarm to the top notch of the pocket, and then from the bottom notch of the pocket to the hem, leaving a gap in between. We're leaving that 6-inch gap in between the notches. So make sure those seams are pressed open, and just sew at 1/2 inch, stop at the notch and back tack. Then we're going to go to the bottom notch, start there, back tack, and then continue down to the hem. So there we have it. There's a gap in between those two back tacks, and that's where you'll be able to put your hand into the pocket. Now we're going to finish up the pocket, sew around it at 1/2 inch, back tacking at beginning and end. I should have serged this, but I didn't have my serger there with me at the time, but that's okay. So that's what it looks like. There's a gap right there. So now we're going to sew the inseam. We're going to take the front and back on both sides and sew it together. And then the gap that's left from before where we stopped is going to be sewn up. So just sew that up. Now we're doing the facing. So the facing, you're going to sew the shoulder seams, and then you're going to match front to front and back to back, pin it, making sure right sides are facing the right side. So the right side of the facing is facing the right side of the body. So here I've sewn it at 1/4 inch. I'm going to do a snip at the V at the point just so that you can turn it out properly. Then I'm going to iron the seam allowance towards the facing. So you're ironing the facing down with the seam allowance going toward the facing. And then we're going to stitch this down just like we did on the pocket. So a really close stitch. This will just keep it from, this will keep it really nice and flat after you've washed it and the ironed part has kind of washed out. The ironed effect has washed out. So that's that. Now I'm going to show you 2 ways of finishing this facing. In this technique, I'm folding under the edge about 1/4 inch and then sewing all the way around it. This is a very clean look. It's also a little harder. You could iron this first. Iron the 1/4 inch up first, and that would make it easier. But I like to just serge around the edge and then sew that down because it's much easier. And in your case, if you have a domestic machine, just zigzag around the edge. When you're done with this, you just want to do a really nice pressing of it so it's all nice and flat and gorgeous. Now we're doing the hem. So what I would actually prefer is that you serge the hem and then blind stitch it, hand blind stitch it up. I'll show you guys that technique someday. But here I'm just folding it up 1/4 inch and then folding it up another 1.25 inches. And then we're just going to sew that down right along the edge of that fold. A very close stitch. And that's it. Voila! Beauty. This here is the sash. So this is optional. You could use just a belt or something, but what I did was I made this sash the length of my waist times 2. I had to put 2 pieces of fabric together. That's what's happening in the left clip. And in the right clip, I'm facing it wrong sides to wrong sides, so the good side is facing out. And I'm just sewing a 1/4 inch around the edge and leaving that frayed edge look. And to get that frayed edge nice and straight, I ripped the fabric and made 3-inch strips. And you're done. Look at it. It's beautiful.